Hello, I'm Dr. Mark Lindholm, and I want to welcome you back to our patient education videos. This video I'm calling Healing Takes Time. And I talked in the previous videos about how subluxations, in the first video, I talked about how subluxations affect your nervous system, which affects how your entire body functions, how it controls itself. And when we correct subluxations, it helps that communication back and forth to the brain. As I mentioned, there's some research, 4 different studies showing that the brain functions differently. We kind of turn on the brain when we get adjusted. And I also mentioned in the last video, we talked a little bit about what health is, and that our goal is to get us healthy and try to get us optimally healthy, not just cover up the symptoms, but try to get at the root of the problem. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how healing takes time. Most people think that their problems started when the pain started, when they come into our office, but that's not usually the case. You're probably wondering, why does he have this strange light bulb in front of him? So this is just a way for me to kind of demonstrate what normally leads to subluxations. So let's say this light bulb being bright is optimal health. Okay, so hopefully we're born as a bright light bulb. We've got, great nerve supply coming back and forth to the brain. Unfortunately though, sometimes some of the first damage to our nervous system, to our spine, comes from the birth process. The birth process sometimes can be traumatic for a baby. The amount of force used, especially in a difficult labor and delivery where the baby has to be pulled out like with vacuum extraction or even more significant things like forceps and so forth, can really cause damage to a little baby's spine. And a lot of times that goes undetected. Even a quote normal, easy labor and delivery, can be traumatic on the baby's neck and head every time the uterus contracts and the baby's coming through the birth canal. So that could take you from this bright light bulb to just causing a little bit of a change. But you probably didn't even, I moved the dial a little bit, but you probably didn't even see the bulb change, because I really don't think it did. And so that's often the case with these early subluxations. Sometimes it doesn't cause any symptoms. So babies might be colicky, they might be fussy, they might not nurse well, which could be symptoms, but a lot of times, unfortunately, there's no symptoms at all. So now I want to talk about just an example of what might happen throughout somebody's life. So maybe they're born as a bright light bulb, they have a great, wonderful labor and delivery, but then maybe they are 1 and they're starting to learn to walk. So children don't just learn to walk, they learn by trial and error, which means lots of falling. Sometimes they fall and, hit the coffee table. Sometimes they fall and bounce their, noggin off the floor. So that can cause some initial subluxations, actually almost like a whiplash kind of a injury sometimes that happens not just once, but over and over again. Then maybe they're 3 or 4 and they fall off their tricycle. So each time I'm kind of moving the dial a little bit. Maybe they're, they get their first 2-wheeler and, if they're like me and my brother, they decide to build some ramps or something and they skin up their knee and go over the handlebars. Maybe they're 16 and they get in their first car accident and they fall out of a tree. Maybe when they're in high school, they have a lot of stress, which we're going to talk about in a future video, that can cause subluxations. Maybe they have a bunch of emotional stress dealing with school and, a lot of stuff, social pressure that happens when you're a teenager. And then maybe at some point, maybe they're 20, maybe they're 30, maybe they're 40, maybe their light goes out. Now, I don't mean their light goes out. I certainly don't mean they die, but maybe they start to have enough irritation to the nerves that they start to have symptoms. They start to have headaches. They start to have migraines. They bend over to tie their shoe and all of a sudden the pain in their back shoots down their leg and they come crawling into our office. But my point is that it took sometimes, almost always, years and decades for that problem to get to that point to where they finally had symptoms. Another way to put this that's kind of common verbiage is we talk about it took 1,000 straws to break the camel's back. You pile up the straws one at a time and it doesn't cause a problem, but you get to that final straw that's just too much for the camel to take and it causes an issue. So with subluxations, that's normally the case. And so because of that, that's part of the reason that it takes time for us to undo all of that and get us back to that bright light bulb. So it takes time for healing. And often there's layers of problems. So each one of those different things can sometimes be a layer that we're working through. So somebody might come in and their main complaint when they first come in might be migraines. we adjust them a little bit and the migraines start getting better, but now they're like, you know, doc, I feel it now in my lower back. And then, oh, you know, I didn't tell you that I have a lot of gas and bloating and I have these digestive issues. And a lot of times we have to work through those different issues. But give it time because it's just the way our body works that it takes time to get to that optimal health. And as always, these videos are to share, so please pass this information on to your friends and loved ones.